go.
What's up, everybody? Fernando and we're back with a brand new GTA 5 live stream. Today we got some awesome demo derbies planned for you guys, and yeah, we got some cool vehicles. We're not obviously gonna do it right here, but we got Trini, we got Rev, we got Lions, we got Trini's wife, we got Rockaby, we got Ro, we got Rockaby. After a while, he did Rockaby. Rev, that's too cute to go. That's too cute to go. And yeah, so today we're gonna be doing some awesome derbies planned for you guys. We got open lobbies and two. We're just having a good time before this too. We're just chilling. Yeah, I know. I don't know. I think we all just formed you know, into a line. Just I don't know. Oh my gosh, there's something coming at us. It's very dark. Yeah. Woo! That was totally not planned at all. That was never planned. Nobody planned it.
Yeah, give me a sec.
Okay. Yeah, how you doing, Hardeep? What's up, everybody? Hardeep, what's up? What's up, Demarian? How you doing? Optic, what's up, Racerboy? What's up, JK? What's up, Skyler? Hey, Damien. Hey, Sky. Hey, JK. Hey, Hacker. Hey, Idiot. Okay, I did turn it down. I'm sorry. I was probably yelling in your ears. Man down. Man down.
I hear someone playing your stream in the background.
Alright, yo, guys, come to me. Come to me. Let's all go to this Maze Bank area. How you doing, Blue Wolf? What's up, Lucas? We have 21 people watching, and we're almost at.
Whoa, who's that?
Kamikaze! Kamikaze!
Yo, on my mic, what's up, bro? The door didn't open. This one did.
Hey there, Cole. Hey there, Optic J. Demarian. Alright, yo. Alright, let's go.
Here, get in, pal. Oh, never mind.
Take the jump, everybody!
Flip it.
Oh
Okay.
my! I think I'm
Stuck the
stuck.
landing.
Wait. Yes.
Alright, yo, come to the Maze Bank place. I want to show you guys something really kill. And fuck kill. Hey, dude, chill.
Damn it! You think you're stronger
Hey,
than
cool.
me?
Where you gonna go?
You think you're stronger than me?
Drive, yes.
Fight me.
Alright, no. Actually, come. Go. Hey, Jonathan, Germany. What's up,
Where's the
Hardeep?
maze bank? You guys go. I'll follow.
Here, come.
Yeah, I'm a big truck that you can't really miss. If you kind of follow, you will see me. You'll get there too.
You kind of left everyone behind.
Alright, fine. I'll wait for you guys. How's everyone doing, guys, in the comments? Welcome back to a brand new GTA stream.
Whoa,
Man down.
Whoa,
Oh my
that
God.
mini's going crazy.
Hey, Hacker. Hey there, Hacker. This way, guys. I'm going so slow for y'all.
Yeah. Knock up Fernando.
Bet.
True that.
Bet.
I'm on the same mission, homie.
No, don't drop that. Oh. You have to drop the pole.
Your little buddy slowing down.
Yo, Cole, what's
Hi
up?
there, Hacker. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Rockaby, dude. How's Rockaby doing? You know, that's the biggest thing. How you doing, Rockaby?
Doing well, man. It's good to get play with you guys again.
Whoa,
Right? Haven't seen you in a while, bro. Oh my god. Hey, hey, faces. Oh shit, bro. Really hurt, bro. Really hurt.
Good. I know it took. Wow, this guy just flashed
Alright.
over that car.
Let me show you guys a cool little trick
Yeah.
that my grandparents taught me back in the day. Right here. No, guys. This isn't the demo derby. We didn't start it yet.
Damn it.
Okay, everybody get on the side of this truck. No, don't hit me. Don't hit me.
Sorry, whoever I killed there.
Don't hit me. Guys, get on the side of this truck. Everybody get on. Quick.
Okay. He's gonna flip us all.
Get on what?
No, I'm not. Get on the side of it. Like, get on.
Just dead.
I didn't flip you. You fell.
Back.
That's what she
We're
said.
in. Gang.
Get in, Trini. I think you're on the wrong truck, Trini.
Night
Rock me.
bro.
Get in, Rocky.
Hold on, I'm
Try, it's
trying.
not
I
letting me.
currently can't see my own stream, guys, because I don't have my laptop on, but I'm gonna turn it on right now.
You guys getting on or not? Hold on. Hold on.
You mean like?
Don't shoot,
with triangle or
stop,
just
stop,
jumping on?
Just press triangle.
Okay, well I'm trying.
Okay, throw out zombie face. Throw out zombie face, Rockaby. Go to the front and throw him out. Throw out zombie face real
I
quick.
like my RPG.
Hey Chico, how you doing? Heart deep, bro. How are you freaking doing, man? But you're gonna throw me out too, so I'm just gonna get back in. There we go, and let's go. All right, ready, guys?
Let's go.
Oh.
Yeah. No, why'd you get out?
I didn't fall.
You threw me out.
Who threw you out?
You guys are retarded. I got the best seat
Yo,
in
look
the
at the
house.
RPG boy. Let's
Oh
go.
my gosh, yo, hold
follow
on, let me
it.
come. Hold
Yeah.
up,
You know
hold
what?
up. Hold on.
Point that RPG.
I'll just ride up here.
Okay, get in. There we go.
Alright.
Get in, Rockaby. Okay, guys, so everybody watching, we're gonna clue you something.
Where did you?
Did you guys stay on?
Can Rockaby stay in?
Okay,
Oh
go.
my god. What the hell is that?
Oh my god. This guy just got an ace.
Shut up. This dumbass said 8. Okay. Alright. Let me just tell him, let me just send him a message and let him know that he's dumb and he's gonna get freaking banned and blocked.
Oh, really, man?
Getting
Random
blocked.
fat, I'm ranked 280.
View profile. I'm doing good, Hardeep.
Almost 281.
Thank you so much. Hey, teacher. How you feeling, Hardeep? Hey, Fernando
Yeah,
fam.
rock, kid.
No problem. Hey,
Put
Bree.
that gun away. Put that gun away.
Block.
Fight like a man. No, no, no. Put the gun away.
Die, bro!
Alright, Rock me. You have your phantom wedge, right?
Oh.
Hey,
Okay.
Wow.
Could you bring it out real quick? Hey, teacher. Hey, Rio. Alright.
Yo, it took this guy 5 times to hit me with a gun for you to die.
Trini, don't kill. Don't kill. Don't kill. We're trying to
I'm
show
not.
something cool. You know, you kind of killed
trying to
like,
get to my
3
truck.
people.
Oh.
Oh my gosh.
Was Rev
What the
blocking
heck?
it?
Yeah, he is pretty fat. Hey, guys.
Rev killed me as soon as I respawned.
Hey, what's up, everybody in
Yo, take
the
it and
chat,
take
guys? Let's try
5
getting 30
shots with
likes.
this gun to kill me. Like hits with it.
Alright, let's go.
That's jokes. Gang, gang.
Okay.
Oh,
Alright,
man, no, I'm even further from my truck.
Tonka truck?
did he just kill you, Rockaby? Alright, you know what? Forget it. Let's just go on that. Let me start up the playlist. Don't worry, he's blocked. Yo, remember his name, guys. Zombie Face. You gotta ban him from her.
Nightbot, damn. Oh
No,
my
legit,
God.
don't kill me.
This freaking little terrorist,
This guy
bro.
got an ace.
This kid's a terrorist,
I'm still
guys.
alive.
He's legit a terrorist.
Nice, dude.
Okay.
yes, I got 5
That's my
Denmark,
job. That's my
Derby.
future job.
I got an
What?
8. What?
What's your future
What?
job?
Can I do co-op with you?
Alright. Okay, so I'm gonna send out invites, okay? Here we go. Noon.
I took out your
Clear.
light.
All from Kurt. Yo, guys, join legit fast. Hey, Dicho. Hey, Sky. Hey, Dicho. Hey, Harrison. What's up, everybody? How's everyone doing in the comments? Let me know.
Oh, it worked.
We have 31
Bro,
people,
it's
no
all
notifications.
Twitter,
That's all
Fernando.
good. How much can you get? Oh my gosh, you guys really didn't join?
Wow,
Really?
it's full, man.
Yeah, that's why I kind of said
Already?
join. So I
Oh,
kind of
zombie
said
face
join.
is in here. Kill
Okay,
zombie
I'm.
face.
Zombie face? Oh yeah, definitely kick.
He got an ace.
Okay,
guys,
join.
good.
Trini go. Trini go. Trini go. Trini go. Trini go.
Trini goat, Trini goat, Trini goat.
Asad. Oh my gosh, Trini.
I'm here with somebody.
No,
What?
you're not.
No, you're not. No, nobody's with you.
No, idiot. No war.
Can I
No
join
war.
now?
Hey,
You
watch
guys
the
are good.
time, Fernando. Watch the time too.
Oh, good idea. Okay, so I'm gonna kick 2 people.
It
Get
won't let
ready
me
to join me.
bro. Close section.
Okay, here we go. Join. 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 Join.
Andale,
Join.
andale.
Join. Andale.
It's not letting me
Andale.
join.
Andale. Andale.
I'll
Job is
invite
no
you.
longer available. So invite me on.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna start up a new
Quick,
one.
quick,
I'll
everybody
one by
invite
one
me.
first.
I'll invite
Okay,
him,
hold
I'll
on.
invite him.
Don't invite him yet. Don't invite him yet. Don't invite him.
Represent.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry if I
Wow.
have to kick you guys. Join now. Join
Oh
now.
my gosh,
Join
they
now.
don't join me.
Join now. This sounds like a
they don't join me.
freaking brown
Zombie
supermarket. Join.
Struggle to join.
Oh my gosh. Join. Join. Trini, join.
Yo, it better put all of us on the same team, bro.
There we go. Oh my gosh, that only took like a billion kickings. I'm sorry if I kicked you. I do apologize, guys. How you doing, Snoop? What's up, Blogger Hill? What's up, Soul Reaper? What's up, Simeon? What's up, Optic Pajas? Obviously, freaking invites were insane.
What's up, everyone?
How did Trini join faster than Rev, but Rev started joining way before? What?
No, he joined, didn't he?
Yeah, but he was joining. It said joining.
True.
Hey,
Guys,
man.
man.
Hey, Blogger
How
Hill.
gonna be left out again?
Good. I'm
Good.
happy.
No, let's go. Yeah.
Is he?
Trini and Rockaby.
Oh.
Oh, I'm
won.
sorry, guys. I'm
Fernando
sorry
got
for
it.
you guys. Like, it's not fair for you guys.
Trini.
Let's go.
I know it's not fair for you guys. I apologize, but what can we do,
got
you know?
this. Come on, Fernando.
Yes. Let's do it.
$1,000 on my team.
Well, I got 10,000 bucks.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, is it rain?
We got this, guys. We got this.
No, you don't, Trini. You don't got shit.
Babe, just
Alright.
give me the signal when you wanna.
Yo, lawnmower?
Lawnmower! Lawnmower gang!
No,
I
dope.
don't know why I'm getting in your.
Why are you getting it, Trini?
Get an RV!
Dead ass lawnmowers.
We should have done lawnmowers, man.
got
I
a
see
lawnmower.
something. I see something I want. He sees what he wants. Oh shit!
Wait, I'm out of the area. Where's the area?
No! You little fish!
What are we
Wait,
supposed
what?
to do
Where's
here?
the area? I'm so confused.
You're supposed to stay on top of that little platform at top.
Did you already die?
I'm out of the area. I'm sorry.
Somebody help me.
Bye.
Oh my god.
Whoever I knocked off.
Woo! Go, go,
I'm
go,
not
go,
mad.
go. Guys, I may have fallen off, but that's okay. That's what life's about.
Yes.
Whoa, whoa.
Oh, so close. He fell off. Let's go.
Yo, fight me. Fight me. Come.
Wait, what? Why'd you say we leaving? Where are we supposed to go?
We're not supposed to be here. Ah!
So confused.
You're supposed to only.
up there.
Ah,
No,
you
where are we
can't.
supposed to
That
be?
means you're off. If you're off, you're off. Hey, Jonathan.
No,
Hey,
I
Soul
was on
Reaper. Hey,
opposite,
Fizz.
and
Hey,
it says
Sus.
leaving
Hey, Block.
LTS.
Hey, Demarine. Who won? Who won? Guys, I'm accepting friend requests, so send friend
Aw.
requests.
I'm confused.
So am I. I saw these two down there, so I went to help.
You're not supposed to go down there. You're supposed to stay up where Max is at. You see where
Wait,
Max
I was
is?
up there. I was up there.
Me
and
too.
it said leaving LTS.
You're not supposed to.
That's dumb.
Oh my gosh. It's a 1v1, guys. Hashtag Max in the comments if you want blue team to win. Hashtag L
Come on,
season if
that's
you want
not
red
that
team to win.
nice. Come on,
Cool
guys.
Let's go, cool guy. Let's go, cool guy.
Max, come on, Max.
No, Max! It's not that hard. Max, bro,
You
just kill yourself.
You just
Just
have to
curious.
drive.
Fam, just kill yourself. Max, just
Fernando,
do
we're
it.
not losing this, okay?
Obviously
Nice
not.
job,
That
cool
was
guy. Nice job.
that was a flukeroni, pepperoni.
So, pepperoni, pepperoni.
Hey,
Just
hey,
jump off,
blogger here.
bro. Just jump off.
We almost have 50 people watching.
Don't
You guys
jump
are
off,
kidding
bro. Don't
today.
jump off.
Jump off! Jump
man.
off!
Hey, Cole is back. What's up,
Don't give
bro?
in to peer pressure.
Jump off! Hey, she splash. Hey, there's a name. Mad Climber. We have someone else subscribing. Thank you so much. Someone sounds like Hike? No, that's Trini and Rockaby. That are
What
the two
up?
options. It's not
What
Hike.
up?
Max,
No, it's
just
Rev.
jump
It's
off,
clearly
bro.
Rev.
Welcome back, everyone.
What?
No. If you gotta have more of an Armenian
What's
accent.
up, everybody?
No, he's trying to imitate Hike, you fool.
Oh, I've never heard hikes.
How's it go? How's it go? Welcome back, everyone. To no, that's that's
Okay,
a rock
wow,
star.
that sounded rough.
No, you sounded possessed.
That sounded rough.
Hey,
Sounded a little
Psyker.
bit scary, bro. I don't know about that. Yo, this camp is lit right now, bro.
Every day we live. Yeah, you can't tell me shit. Yeah. No. Shut up.
Remember I was broke. Now we get it.
Oh my
Take-
gosh. Why are you guys singing? It's my stream. You guys don't sing.
It's my stream too.
For like two
True.
people. Hey, Simon.
Excuse me?
Nothing.
We're on the same team, bro. You can't be saying
cool.
that. Come on.
No, I didn't.
Back at
Alright, let's do this. Hey, Julian. Hey, Ura.
What up? Let's go, team. Let's go, team.
Sweet like candy cane.
Your team's going down. That's what your team's going.
Yo, friend, you wanna get in the same car? And I'll tell you where they are.
Yeah, get in mine. Get in mine. Get in mine. Get in mine, bro. You're going there whether you like it or not. Guys, focus on him first. Watch over here once he gets down. Wait,
no. Bro, we're a team.
How am I out of the area?
JKS. Don't go to that side, you bums. You don't stay on this side. Make sense? Make sense.
Go ahead, do it last.
Take that, Trini!
I got you.
East side ting! East side ting! East side Marios! East side Marios! Move back! Move back! No! I'll save you too! I got you! Go! No! I did save you! I pulled him away! Yes! Yes! I was a sacrifice! I was a sacrifice! Hey, it's Jake Ollie and Prince. Hey, it's an Julie Tyler. We have 50 people watching. What's up, everybody? Yo, it's a fight for the fittest. Come here, Lanky.
Yeah, let's go.
No, come here, Rockaby.
Good work,
Bring that
bro.
ass back here, boy. Bring that ass back here. Bring that ass back here.
I can't even get on the ladder.
Good, guys.
I can't get back up.
We won.
Bro, see, I was a
Oh.
sacrifice, bro. Told
Huh?
you I was a sacrifice.
I
Ah!
appreciate it.
No! Ah! Go. Yeah! Beat him up.
No,
Beat him up.
You're covering my drawing. There we go. Look at this. Admire that drawing.
Is it just you two up there?
Yeah, you won. You mad? Guys,
Hey,
look
Tyler.
at this nice artwork
Beat him up!
by Ro.
Was
You
that
guys
game?
can't lie. That is amazing.
Oh, shut up.
Look at this amazing artwork.
If you guys already don't forget to smack that subscribe button. I can't see it. Do
What
it
is
again.
Trini doing?
Look.
I don't
Look
see
at
it. I legit don't see it. Hey, sandwich. Hey, cool. Yeah, like that ass.
that. Oh man. All right. So what do we do now?
Well, you wait until
Wait, is there someone
Trini.
still there?
Trini's
Me.
there, yeah.
Can
beat
you
him up.
kill yourself?
No.
Why?
I jumped out of my car and swam over to here, but I'm looking for a way to get back up. There is.
Oh
none.
my god.
You can't. That's the point. If you get knocked out, you're done.
If you would kindly
no.
like to kill yourself,
According to the game, I am still alive.
excuse me. Can are you? You
You want me to
able
commit
kill
suicide
yourself?
off the top of this thing?
All right. Fine,
Yes!
You wanna fight
Come, where are you? Come.
then? All right. How'd I
It's
get
a
there? How'd I
trap.
get there?
It's a setup.
inside.
It's a setup. Hey, sorry,
you're
bro. How you doing,
inside.
Tyler?
Just kill yourself.
Hey,
Trini.
Cole.
What do you mean you're inside? How'd you get there?
I swam, walked up the ladder, and then went inside.
Is there a time? Is there a timer? For you?
At the
Come
bottom
down.
right.
Nope.
Oh, then leave the place.
I
Then
am
leave
an
the spot.
artist, right, guys?
Alright, I'm just gonna commit suicide over here.
Yes, boss.
Okay.
Guys, never do that. Okay,
Oh.
Trini's just sad about life. So.
Ding,
Trini,
ding,
did you find a
ding,
spot
ding.
where your timer wasn't going? Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Wow.
No, that's not allowed.
Yeah.
No.
Everyone
That's-
just jump you out there, you
That's
jump down
that's
that
cheating. Don't do it. Hey, Fernando, fam. No, legit. Don't
Cheating.
do it, guys. We
How
will
did I
vote to
not-
kick you
Get a death there. That's weird.
because you didn't die. You just went
I
out
did
of the
die.
area.
Oh, okay.
Wait, you do
That's
have a
a
death though.
different guy.
No, he doesn't
mine,
have a
I
death. He has
Yeah,
0.
big time. No, on my screen it says 1.
Actually,
Oh,
it says
never
0.
Bro,
mind.
serious.
Hey, Ro, his guy.
I am an
Andrew hated
artist.
your hairs and his soul. My bad. I was looking at Trini instead of Rockaby. Guys, let's try getting 40 likes. I know we can do it only 2 way. Hey, SG says bye, Sol. Hey, Andrew. Hey, Ro, did you see my profile pic? Hey, Kylie.
I'm looking at
Hot
it. It
spring.
looks like fire. I
Fire.
don't, what is it?
The devil
Fire.
is the flyer.
Bro, comment on my stream so I can see what it is.
Good way to take my traffic over.
savage.
Oh no, I can't move. Yeah, I'm gonna get a lot more just for it, bro. Wait. How many rounds you had to win? Stop.
At this moment, young Ro.
Guys, line up right here. Line up right here.
We're on a team. We're on a team. Come on, we're on a team. Please. What? Dude, Dude, what a team. Stop. Yes.
How are we missing
Yes.
one guy?
Oh shit. Oh my god. Yo, they're trying to hit me from here.
Rockaby's here. Rockaby's here. Rockaby, get him.
What?
Get him, Rockaby.
Shitting myself. Bro, but what are you going after me? What are you doing? Stop.
There's a freaking limo. There's a freaking limo.
No, no, please. Wow.
Go, 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 go.
How do I get up? Please. I don't deserve this.
No! Stop!
I'll let you fall
Trini!
off and
Trini! Trini! Trini!
I'll
Oh my gosh!
try
No! Chill, 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 chill! Rock me,
my
wait, wait, wait!
God.
Damn it! Damn it, rock me! Hey, dude, chill, party.
Wow.
Hey, go. Oh my gosh, bro, what happened, bro?
Genuinely upset.
How is you stuck? How did you get stuck?
Whoa there.
Hey, what's up, George?
Whoa, no, no, no. No, that's
Let me
okay,
check
that's
out your
okay.
profile.
He's
picture
going. He's
just now.
going. Somebody come help me.
Oh, I see
Yo,
it.
you
That's
can't
cool.
toss him.
I like
You
that.
can't toss him. No
Oh, I
way.
seen it, bro. That's sick.
No way, Jose.
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
I like that, I
whoa,
like
whoa.
You got this, bruh. You got this. Hey, DGJ. Hey, Stuart. Thank you so much for subscribing,
bad.
Stuart.
I'm-
Guys, we're going to get close to 12,200 subscribers.
My own partner. Oh, good, you died. Good.
Okay, Trini, I don't think you're accomplishing anything by staying there, buddy.
I'm just gonna let him sit there.
Oh, shit. His car's on fire.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
falling on him. Woo. Hey, Corey.
Kill
Hey,
him.
Andrew.
Kill him.
Kill him! Kill him! Kill him!
Hey,
Yes! Get him!
Oh, that's so awkward.
Get him! Yes! Yes! Yes!
Should we get the guy in the truck at least?
yes.
No.
Perfect.
Here, deep. Oh! Max is getting bullied.
How many rounds is this to win? 3, right?
Traffic jam.
I don't know what Max can do at this moment.
Max got nothing.
No, don't say that. I, unlike someone else in my team, has team spirit. I want my team to
Yep.
win.
Change up cars. Rock, go back over to their side. Grab a black
How you doing,
car,
Faces?
come
Hey,
at
Tyler.
Wow.
Hey, man.
Hold on,
There's
hold
only
on, hold
one
on.
person left. That's just suicide for him.
him. Whoa! Nice.
He made it? What? How did he make it? Hey, Nicholas.
That was wicked.
Of course, Nicholas, you can have a shout out, buddy.
Savage driving. There you go. He's done now.
No, Max, you got this.
No, you don't, Max. You ain't got shit, bro. You ain't got shit, bro.
Max, get out and get one of
Max
those,
is
those
done.
old ass trucks.
Oh, shit. Rockaby's coming. And then I took your whole team to take down the other guy. How you gonna what? This guy. Think he missed.
I was
Oh,
worried he was
no.
gonna go for him, so I was trying to.
Guys,
get
how
out
many
of the
commands
way.
are you adding? I don't think you want, add all that.
Let's do it. I think Max has given up. Oh no. Max. Max.
Max is
Oh,
done.
no.
Max.
Get him, Rock.
Max.
Get him.
Oh my god. Oh,
Max. Bloop.
It like tipped in, bro. That was sick.
Tiptoe through the window.
Oh my gosh, why you have to get up?
By the tulips with me. Hey Max. How you doing, Max? What's up? And all. Hey Faces. Hey Stuart. Hey Tyler. Hey Dicho. What's up, everybody? Help. We're at 51 likes, guys. Can we get 60? I know we can do it. Hey, Racing Boy.
Sweet like
Yo, tell
candy
this kid to
cane.
kill himself, man.
He's swimming.
I mean, I don't know
I
how.
see him swimming.
Max, can you kill yourself? Max, can you please kill yourself?
Oh, glitched.
Yeah, you know, please kill yourself, drown to death.
Pick out pistol or shoot it.
Nobody likes you, Max. Kill
Do I have a
yourself.
pistol? I don't
Max.
have any.
Rockaby's just watching him
You
die.
could pick one.
Look at
He's like,
him.
hey, buddy.
Okay.
Are you on a freaking lawnmower?
Well played.
I got you.
Yeah, very well played, team
Ready to
2 and
check.
Fernando.
Hey, fun chat. Yeah, that ass, this guy got out of his car, and you know I had to hit him. Like, that was the only option for me to do.
I was alive for like a good 5 minutes. You didn't have to keep hitting me.
This thing didn't last for 5 minutes.
2, 1, 1 minute.
30 seconds, maybe.
Yeah, at least, not even 30 seconds, but maximum like 20.
Say no more.
You were dead pretty fast, like, I'll be honest. But, you know, that's what...
Say no more.
We're not friends when we're out of the car. When we're in the car, we're a team, you know? You know what I mean?
Yeah, bet.
What's that? What's that little... yeah, what's that little grunt or whatever you just did? What is that? I
Let's
don't
take
feel so-
tractors, boys. Come on.
Alright,
Yeah,
alright,
it's
everybody grab a tractor.
It's a
Alright.
lawnmower.
Or a
Everybody got
lawnmower,
one.
sorry.
No, nope.
Hold on.
Nope.
Hey, boys, I gotta, like, mute for a sec, okay?
Okie dokie.
Toss him off,
Oh,
toss him
yeah,
off, toss him
I
off.
low-key want that. Can I get it? No, what I do that?
Good job, bro.
I got him off. Bro, are you for real? Did your dumbass just go off? Oh my god.
I tried braking, but it didn't work.
Yeah, right off.
I didn't run, dumbass.
Rah, rah, Rasputin, lover of the Russian queen.
I'll be carried on. Rah, rah, Rasputin. Russia's greatest love machine. Come on, no.
You can't even lie that smart.
I saw it coming. I had
Yes. Let's go.
What the heck was that?
Let's go discover.
Hey, DJ.
Can I get
yeah,
up there?
okay.
Right faces? They're just going off with the command.
Oh no! Bye!
Oh shit! The swerve! The biggest swerve of 2017.
How do I get up there?
Shit! Guys are stuck!
I can find a way.
Hey, brother.
Let's go on in the
There's an open road. Tornadoes cover. Hey, sister.
Taken as soon as Trini said he's gonna mute his mic, Rockaby left too.
That
I'm
ass.
still here. Sorry.
Rock me some lever. Lever
I
gang.
died, so I didn't have much to say.
Yo, bro, actually, don't stay there. That's cheating. That's not fair. That's not cool.
I know, but I'm just gonna die when you guys get dead. Or like when the last guy gets off. You know.
Rah, rah, Rasputin! You're about to take the double T.
So who's alive? on our
Lies,
team?
though. I said I had the mute, and you guys just ran me off.
No, that was me.
No.
That was me. That was
You
me.
didn't say
That
not
was
to
me.
kill you.
Yeah, you just said you were gonna mute yourself. Rah, rah, Rasputin! Lover of the
Don't
Rush.
commit suicide, guys, by drowning.
He's trying for this lawnmower so hard.
Ding.
I know, I see him. I'm just gonna leave him alone. I feel bad.
It's not making it.
My alarm went off on the command.
Tell him to reverse. Tell him to reverse. Reverse up.
Alright, guys, let's just gently die.
Yeah, I can't even move.
Woo! Come, man. Go ahead, intro. How deep? How's your leg doing, buddy?
Oh, juke.
I'll show you a juke.
Yeah, this guy's pulling mad skills with this track lawnmower.
And I died.
Go, dude! Go, dude!
Come on, go.
No, he's not going
Oh.
anywhere. Yo, smash him!
no.
Yes, the other one's out.
This kid's wicked.
No.
Woo!
You guys had a lawnmower?
Go, jump down, let's fight.
My tire's in him.
Yes, yes, yes.
Woo!
Let's go.
Yeah, face
I'm
plant.
very happy.
Rev, let's go.
Oh, poor guy, dude. Oh, you're stuck.
It's bulletproof.
No!
It's bulletproof.
You have a gun. Why don't you shoot it?
It's a bulletproof thing, dog.
Just yank him out.
I'll yank you out.
Okay.
I don't want it. Idiot. That scream, right?
You'll never find him down there.
Yeah. I'm with the fishes.
Fish?
My
No, man,
fish! Aw, damn. I hear you, Hair Deep. At least you're getting better, though, bro. Hey, gross. Hey, Drippy. I blew off. Yo, that was insanity.
Insanity.
Ew.
up.
Oh my
Why
god.
you're so ugly. Guys, if you guys are watching, you guys are enjoying this Demolishion party, let me know in the comments.
A demo the what?
Yes.
Demo Derbyyyy.
Derbyyyy demolition.
Demo
Birdie.
goodbye.
I said birdie.
Derbyyyy demolition.
I'll show you a birdie.
I'll give you a big birdie. I mean, guys, don't
I
forget
have
to smack
big
that like
bird.
button.
Of
Big
course
bird?
you
Hey,
will.
Joe.
Big bird? The yellow thing?
I'm a big bird.
That is a lot more.
Alright, yo, everybody,
Okay.
legit, pick a lawnmower. Everybody pick a lawnmower. Alright?
For real though.
Yeah,
No
yeah, yeah.
cheating.
Everybody grab
Okay.
lawnmower.
Alright, yo, okay. Yeah,
I'm
for
going
everyone,
with,
that one,
I
I'll
like
get
that
one.
lawnmower. I like that lawnmower. over
Nah,
there.
you're dead ass. That one like.
Somebody's gotta get in a car to push us over.
Okay.
Alright.
We didn't even get a lot more.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, these guys
What
are
do you-
liars.
Oh my
Get
god.
him! Get him! Go, 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 go! Attack! Attack! Attack!
They need to win so bad, they gotta be cheap.
This guy's so dumb, he's stuck here. Gosh.
Move,
Stop
move.
it! No! No! You suck!
There's one down.
You suicidal
If I have to
freak!
myself, I'll take you out. I'm down.
Why were you gonna take yourself out? There was no reason. Ugh.
Oh!
Where'd you come from? Bye, bye, Trini.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
you get
chill.
back up the- oh, okay, there's a ladder. Alright.
I'm just gonna chill at the bottom of the freaking sea. Hey, Julian.
No, don't
Uh,
be lonely. Get on land.
I hate you.
Okay, that's
I
mine.
freaking had Rockaby.
I'm gonna kill
I mean, I
Rockaby.
juked
No,
Rockaby.
Rockaby.
Things were good. Things were looking great.
Yo, my character's
Nope.
press triangle to get in the car here.
Rockaby.
Get him,
Let me
Rockaby. I hope
pull
you
this
kill him.
gas on you first.
Kill him, Rockaby!
Yeah.
Hey, DDG. Assisted
Rockaby,
kill!
I kept pressing circle, but the amount of times I spammed it, he just kept going.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Idiot Joseph, Ro, you suck! Yeah, Ro does suck.
You suck.
Oh my gosh, who's still up? No, nobody's up top. Kill. Trini? Trini, kill yourself. That is not allowed.
What are you
That's
talking
cheating.
about?
That's cheating, bro.
Yeah, man.
Legit,
Wait, there's
Trini,
no one
that's
else up
cheating.
here? Hey, let's go.
Trini, you're cheating!
Might wanna kill yourself.
His
Trini.
timer's still going. His timer's still going.
No, Trini, stop. That's cheating. We're gonna be forced to kick you. Trini.
Yeah.
Kick him, what?
I'll kick
Yeah! Andrew says, hey,
What's the-
Trini.
What's the count? What's the count?
Andrew says, hi, Trini.
We gotta win
What
too.
up, Drew? What up, Drew, man?
Hey, real. Hey, cool.
Can I bust out of me?
Bro, I will kill you.
He will.
I will kill you too.
No, you already killed me once. Now it's my turn.
Right, faceless. That's crazy. Well, whatever. It is what it is.
For real, Hardy. But I wasn't trying to, go up to this top. Swimming to the top would have been too much work, She doesn't
Alright,
about
guys,
it.
for real, dead ass lawnmower.
Hey, expert beast. All right.
Nah. We
For
tried
sure,
that
for
once,
sure.
all this bait out.
Let's go lawnmower. Everybody, no cheating, okay? If you cheat, then you're a cheater.
I'm about it. I'm
You
about
guys
it.
did it last time, so you're
No,
cheaters.
dead ass.
We're going lawnmower. That ass, I'm hopping on the lawnmower. I'm actually on it, like dead ass.
Like a live ass, I'm on it.
That's in a live ass.
Oh shit.
Oh shit.
Go for it, please. Yo. Just chill here and then just reverse as they come. Actually, I think I'm stuck. Oh hell no. Bro, please, let me go.
Oh shit!
Yes. No! How the hell?
What?
I'm getting off, bro. Screw this.
You boys got a lawnmower. Hey, Rockaby legit. Lincoln, stop. Don't pick a lawnmower.
Guys, I tried getting a lawnmower. It didn't work out.
This little cheater!
I'm not.
Yes! Yes!
No.
Stop.
What's going on?
Whoa! Whoa! You did a flip over. Whoa! Did like a cartwheel flip backside, frontside thing.
What?
Yeah.
Oh shit. Yo, I just take it if they come from the other side, I'm kind of screwed, so I'm just gonna get in.
No! Oh my god,
You
juice.
should do it in there.
Your mom.
Rah, Yo,
Russian lover
let's get
of
it. Oh shit, wrong.
Oh shit.
Boy, you guys got juked.
Listen, buddy.
Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe not.
It's Rev, it's not that hard.
Dead eyes. Alright, Rev, your time has come.
Bro.
Your time has come! Handlebar ball! Can I get a free pair of BBS?
Damn,
Oh damn, you're done, bro. This, the bird's eye view of what's happening to you.
yes. Oh no.
Nah. You're going down. You're going down.
No.
Oh my god.
How is this kid still alive? Bang! Oh my god.
Ah.
Bang! At this moment, Rev realized. So did Ro. Bang!
Oh shit.
Oh, there he goes. Oh, there he goes.
Yo, you wanna get up, Fab? There you go. Yes! You pushed me in. Oh shit. Okay, what did you do it?
Ain't funny no more, is it? Ain't funny no more, is it?
Oh my god.
Ain't funny no more.
Stop.
Ain't funny no more. Ain't funny no more. Oh
Stop. Yes.
shit. Rasputin.
Wow.
What happened? Did he like fall?
He just got sandwiched between a car, a truck,
And
and
a-
everything. He's just getting ran over, back and forth, back and forth.
Skirt.
Oh.
Yo, y'all took an L, like a big fat L.
A
right.
fat L.
How big and how fat?
There's a
Trini size.
fat and big. Fat and big.
Hey, Rio. Guys, we're almost at 60 likes. Let's get 60 likes. Yeah, I'm Trini. What happened to you guys winning, bro?
Facts, bro.
Y'all be liars, homie.
Y'all were
The road
talking.
gang. Road
I
gang.
went lawnmower. I went lawnmower, and your partner Lankin
Liars.
came and hit me out.
Road gang. Road gang.
What about Rogaine?
What?
I don't know who that is.
Yeah,
It's a
it's a thing. It's not a him.
yeah. It's a hair replacement company, hair regrowth company.
I'll hook you up, Fernando.
You guys would know.
So you use that for his hairline.
Oh. Shots fired.
Listen, yo, freaking gratatatata. Zeke
Hey,
waka
let's
waka,
get it.
eh
Actually, I
eh
wanna
waka waka, eh eh. Bro, we got this, bro. We got this.
I
We
don't
had
like, I don't
69
like
things.
you on my team.
Why? We're such good friends.
No.
We dance together. We push each other out.
Wait, what?
Ew. That's not weird.
No,
At all.
not at all. What the
Why
hell
are
is
they
this
all
now?
bunched up?
My car, get off.
Yo, what the hell?
Get off.
Ah, they call it. Yeah.
What can I drive?
Hey, Trini.
Oh my
Hey,
god, the
Trini.
one at the back is stuck.
Hey, Trini. Hi, Trini.
Shit. Shit. Shit, get in.
Get row, get row, get row, get row, get row, get row.
Yo, this shit
Get-
won't drive. Why? Yo, it's not, it's dead ass not moving.
Oh! Oh!
Get him, get him.
Yeah! Where's this kid at?
Another one.
Oh, here he is. I found him.
Hell no. Oh, stay in. Yo, hit me so I can move. Okay, like.
You had a
don't,
jump
like-
start?
You survived. What?
I did.
Jumped out.
Oh shit.
I
Oh my
jumped out
God,
last
nice,
minute,
dude.
just before I hit the ground.
Yo, I think this is my chance to get
Yo,
a
my
new
car
car.
on fire, what the hell?
Dude, oh hell no. Oh my god, please give me a car, please give me a car. Let me get in this.
Oh, who's down here with me?
Fist fight right now.
Yo, why
Let's
don't
go.
they
Let's
move?
see.
Oh, they
Let's go,
moved.
fist fight.
Let's go.
Take
is
that!
there- Oh wait, that's Rockaby.
We both switched cars, bro.
Yeah. Wait, I'm confused a little bit.
Yeah.
Fernando waxed Trini. Wow.
Actually, I'm good.
Hey, buddy.
Man wouldn't let me
I'm
put
on
down
your
my
team.
jerry can, man. My cherry can.
Jerry!
Jerry.
It's a cherry.
I'll pop your cherry.
Terry. Ah.
Why are you always talking to dudes like that, bro? What's wrong with you?
I do.
Oh no. Oh yeah, nice dude. Just trap me in a corner.
Hey,
Why
Gabby.
you gave me back
Hey there,
shots?
Gabby. What's up here? What? What are you guys talking about? I want to see this. Oh my
Guys, I
gosh!
swear we're all stuck.
Oh my god!
I have to go get you one.
Okay.
Rockaby's getting rammed!
Yes.
That's
Go,
pointless.
go, Faisal.
Wait a minute.
Where do I get in?
He's stuck.
Oh
He's
my
not
God.
backing out of there.
Broken one.
Think you better dip, Brad. Go
Oh, the
back.
jukes!
No!
Get in his! Ro, get in his!
What are you gonna do?
I'm stuck.
Oh shit! Hey, Abra!
What are you gonna do though?
Hey,
What are you
dude.
gonna do?
It's here we go.
No! I'm jumping.
Don't steal my car.
Somebody's got to win this.
Get him!
Here's the red one.
On my screen, you fell off, bro. What?
The
What
hop.
rock you rock
The hops.
This red one doesn't work.
Yo, none of these cars work.
Yeah, I got the best angle on this ever. Oh.
I can't get in the blue one.
Reverse, reverse, reverse.
No,
Just knock him out, Rockaby. Just knock him
This is so jokes.
What?
Get him. Ram him again.
What are you gonna do, bro? What are you gonna do? Oh shit, Ryan.
The smarter one has come. The smarter one has come.
Yo, look, I'm just jump on No. Oh shit.
This moment, Ro realized he screwed up.
Whoa.
It's so elusive.
You just walked over the car.
Come here.
You guys are screwed up.
Oh no.
Go knock him out.
Robbie, what's up, bro? Yeah, Robbie. What's up, bro?
That was jokes. How you did, Big
Oh
Ten?
my god.
Hey, you. Yo, I had freaking bird's eye view and it was jokes every time you'd get almost hit.
Y'all just running over the car.
The jokes are real though. Yo, that hit was insane. I went flying.
You should see my angle, bro.
I know.
You
I'm
freaking
looking at
sword.
yours.
Hey, Edward. Hashtag Ro almost clutched in the comments.
Damn. If I said both them flying off, that would have been sick.
No.
Last man standing.
Good day, Julie.
Alright.
Ooh, that was actually, this is a lot of fun. We gotta do these more often. We hit 170 subscribers. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm hopping in a red one. I mean a black one.
Ain't no black ones, man.
Check carefully.
Whoa.
Pyro.
Guys, 3 of them at that side don't work. Get right.
I tried.
Oh my
Oh
god.
shit.
What's this guy doing?
Man did a banana swirl.
Yo, it's a car meet. It's a car meet.
Get right. Get Trini. Yes. Where'd he go? Where'd he go?
Can't tell.
Get off of me. Get off of me.
Get out! Shit, no! No! Stop! Don't.
I left.
No!
Let's go.
I left, bro. You better be thankful I left, eh?
What do you mean? You're on my team!
This is madness.
Bro, it's like a little car meet here with no space.
Sorry, Trini.
I really like the red on your car. Ooh, on the other car. It's really nice.
Take him out! No!
You can't hit me.
Oh shit!
Yo, get Fernando. Get Fernando.
Yeah! Yes! Get Trini! Come here, Lycan! Take that.
My bad.
Yes,
Yes, I got you, bro!
Good work. You rock me here.
Get him! No! Did you get juked? How did you say that?
Bro, how'd you say that?
How did you freaking say that?
Whoa.
Oh! No, that's not wrong. That's Big Ten. Go.
Oh, baby.
What's up, Jose?
Yo, get rock me. Get rock me. Oh,
How did you freaking survive that, Rockaby?
Yeah, get roll.
Bro, I got you, bro.
I need help.
Hey, boss.
Wow, he just jumped out. Okay.
I live, face this. I got you, friend.
That's safe, Trini.
Keep him. No.
Shit. Never mind.
Keep him here. We good.
Somebody get me out of here.
Press triangle. Yes. Oh, you don't
What?
teammate.
The swerve!
How do you rock
The swerve! No, 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 chill.
Yo, I accidentally hit Max off because he was in a red car.
Why can't I get in this car?
Because you're not pressing.
You're not pressing triangle.
I am. It just won't let me.
That sucks. No. Get him! Get him! Yes!
I'm tipping. Oh shit! No. This is not good.
This is not an ideal situation.
Yo, you have to chill here, bro. Rock, we can you please back up a little bit.
Alright, is that enough?
No. Not at all.
Yes! Break free!
Guys, I'm in a blue car, just so you know.
Fernando, what are you doing? I got you. Get a car. Get it.
That shit was on fire, bro!
No!
Bro! How you gonna fly off like that? Shit! Can we talk about this, guys? Like, I'm not enjoying this.
Just hold him there. Cool guy, hold him there. He's gonna get up.
Oh, shit! Yes! Yes! The jukes! The jukes, bruh! Yeah, I'm down to stay. I ain't got no problem.
Yeah, I'm just waiting to get a bird's eye view on you. See what it looks like.
Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh shit! Let's chill, guys. Let's chill.
Can we jump out? Let's try and jump out.
It's not that serious.
Oh, come on.
Okay, let's calm down.
7,
No.
6. Oh, okay, I'll make
Oh, I'm out of the area over here in the corner. I gotta come back just a little.
it. If you go off the map, you win the game.
Tides have changed. Tides have turned, haven't they, my friends?
Guys, car's on fire.
Oh no, that's not a good thing.
Where you going, bro?
Bigger question is,
The camera.
Why are you going back there, Trini?
don't matter.
Wow, it won't let me get in a car.
Yo, ram the shit out of me. Oh, nice.
I'll just chill him out.
Shit.
Why is that when I press my D-pad, it doesn't change
I don't know.
the camera?
Oh, damn.
Get
That
him!
radio off. My bad.
No, stay
Yeah,
away.
Yeah.
my boy. Thank you.
No! No! Lobo!
It won't let me get in the car.
Yeah, I think all of them may be destroyed by now.
Damn it.
You're in the red one.
Lobo!
Oh, he clipped my.
No! Yes!
What happened? Oh no.
Okay.
Well,
Fist fight! Let's go, fist fight.
deal with that, Rock. Deal with that. Don't ever trust for that. Don't ever trust for that.
No, don't do that, bro. That's fake. Get out.
Fine,
Yeah, but then
fine,
we're gonna
Rocky.
fight him after he's ran over him twice? Really?
It's your turn, Rockaby.
Matador, buddy. Matador. Hit him. Or not.
That'd be. Rockaby, come back. Come back. Please, it was a joke. It was just a prank, bro. Oh shit!
Oh.
Oh shit!
Why
Okay,
did you
okay.
Get out of the car.
It was only fair.
I was gonna,
It was-
yeah, I pushed him off first anyway, so I was gonna win by a quarter second.
Yeah, probably.
Oh.
Woo!
Stop.
Alright, Hardeep, dude, thanks so much for coming by. Hardeep, appreciate it, man. And we hit 70 likes. Let's go. Thank you, Hardeep. Appreciate it. Bye.
Later.
That one was a lot of fun.
That was. I want to do it with supercars.
Okay, what?
Why not?
Cause you're ugly and you know how to clap your hands. That's not your hands that's clapping.
It's your mama that's clapped out.
Hey, I know biker.
Oh, wow.
Huh. Wow, so original. Huh, you mom. Huh.
Okay, your dad.
Oh, your dog.
Your
That's
dog.
that's a little weird. Alright, let's go. Noon.
Get something good, yeah. Like these cars are a little too slow.
You're a little too slow.
You're fat slow.
You freaking huff and puff after riding a bike.
Fat slow.
Unknown biker, I meant the command, bro.
Man, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Just our legs.
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
I can't run.
That's
yeah,
funny,
yeah,
bro.
I had a puke.
yeah.
I got some
Hey,
tight
William.
Be
kicks.
so
though.
relaxed, bro. It's not that serious.
Okay, what the heck is
Oh,
this?
No, what are these?
What is it?
What are those?
Dozer versus. Okay.
Oh, I'm getting the dozer. I'm getting the dozer.
No, fam, please.
Yes. Yes.
Why are you in my...
Hey, why are you in my car, man? Oh,
Shit.
I'm confused.
Whoa.
What's up, boys?
He has a bully dozer.
What's up, Rockaby? I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you.
Thanks, bro.
How do you play it out?
Just stay behind
No,
that
he
thing.
takes you out. Wait, he's the only one that can take people out.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh,
Really? Really?
So, like, you know, I'll just chill. Alright, bro, have fun. Yo, can I, like, take a ride in that first ride?
Yeah, yeah, right on top
Yo,
of me.
Rock,
buddy.
you might want to move, Rock. You might want to move, Rock.
Oh, damn.
Oh, you got me all kind of twisted upside down.
I got
Get
you.
off
Keep
me,
it
yo.
there.
Bring him to the edge. Bring him to the edge.
Yo, I think you're gonna fall off, low key. Oh,
Trini!
no. Someone,
How?
You're so lucky. Someone saved you from getting stolen. Yo, get like it. Yo, run him over, run him over. Run him over. I'll run him over. Just hit him up, hit him up, hit him up. Nice. I don't think I'm doing any damage to him, bro. Oh shit, thanks.
Oh, my bad, wrong guy. Got him.
Yo, Trini, what you gonna do, bro?
This
Oh, I
guy's
wasn't
trying to
paying
eat food.
attention right now, man. Damn.
Oh no.
Woo!
Oh, damn.
If I do this.
Hey, Trini!
No.
Cat,
We out, boys. Oh, wait, there's more.
burn out in this.
Man, I got splat right on this truck. Oh.
Come on.
That was a lot of fun, guys.
Nice.
GG. Woo!
It's unfair.
Expert.
Hey, why'd you tell him out? What'd he say?
If you're happy
Oh, I
and you
see.
know
He's
it
found
and
it.
you really want to show it. If you're happy and you know it, so clap your hands.
Clap, 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 clap.
That was
Yeah, I
a
like
lot
this
of
one.
fun.
This one's just unfair. It's basically who has the power.
Exactly. Who has the thing?
The power.
Take him out.
I got a power. I swear, if they had the freaking dozer
Why
this
did
time, I would
Idiot
be
Show
mad.
randomly time out unknown biker on your
What?
thing?
A lie? Why did you? Let's take that in.
30
Guys,
minutes,
they're
man.
just having a little beef. I don't understand
30
why.
minutes.
Trini, you down for 2K? 2K flex tonight.
No, dude. I gotta go in like half an hour.
No, you
Wow.
won't.
You don't have to. We have 70 people watching. What's up, everybody? Hey, Jalen.
What a fag.
What's everyone?
What up,
Let's try
70?
getting
Unknown biker,
80
I understand why you
likes.
spammed him out. I see how he spammed there.
Yo,
Like,
what's
5
taking so
messages.
long, yo?
freaking Rose Wi-Fi, bruh.
It's not
Just
me.
slower than your freaking mom.
I didn't get that one, but okay.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Shit, we don't have the thing.
Rockaby, grab the dozer.
We're in
Okay.
trouble. We're in trouble, boys.
I don't remember how to use it.
Me neither. That's why I gave it to you.
We're in trouble, boys.
Cool guys
Alright,
got
I
it.
get
Cool
the
guy,
dozer.
He's got it.
Toss him
Can
off.
I use a
For a little
dozer?
Toss him off.
Oh wait, never mind.
Yo, where's
Oh
the-
shit!
His head has to be tracked in every position. Yo, hit him off, hit him off.
Throw him off. Throw him off. Throw him off.
Guys, we're legends.
Throw him off. Throw him off. Hashtag.
There.
Oh, hi, bro.
Hey, bud.
Okay,
Whoa,
get out. Move,
nice.
move,
I
move,
want to get
move,
that
move, move.
Oh hell. No, no, no. Oh no.
Oh shit. Oh shit. That shit on fire, bro.
Yo, watch I get his whip. Shoot him, bro. Oh, he's on fire too. No, broccoli, please, please, on fire, broccoli. On fire. Yes. Alright, so I don't know how we're gonna win this.
Fist fight, man.
True, true. Alright, we're
Oh.
down for a fist fight. Guys, get out of our car, stand on either side.
All right, yo,
You guys down?
let's go. Get out your car.
Ah, okay, ready, no, like
Well,
that.
that didn't take long.
Oh.
No, he killed himself.
Why is this guy running at me? I'll run you over.
Trini,
Oh
stop.
shit.
Trini.
Oh shit. Oh no.
Oh.
How
I'm
did I
about
lose
to
that that quick?
Alright, Trini, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit, what? Oh, oh,
Your
the
partner almost kills you.
that.
Nice, dude. How are you not dead?
Yes.
Oh, this guy knocked
No! Really? Really? Oh.
Alright, now it's 2v2, all on their tugs.
I'll give you an air tug.
Hey now.
You're a rock star.
You're a rock star.
I think everybody just get out. Yeah, see, like, everybody just... Oh, 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 oh. We got a gangster over here. This is very time-consuming, indeed.
It is time consuming.
I'm just
Alright,
watching.
everyone all jump out at once, and we'll see, we'll let the game decide.
Trini, jump
I'm
out.
down. I'm down. I'm not getting out first.
What?
So you guys get out. Tell
Why
you
would-
guys to get out first.
Why would anyone else get out first? You gotta be the morning star. You gotta be the beginning. Look, okay, your teammate got out. You got out. Okay, fist fight. Okay, why isn't our team getting out? Throw him off. Throw him off. Fight
They're
him.
making
Fight
it
him.
They're making it down.
Fight him. Fight him, Trini.
Fight. Fight.
They're fighting. Woo! Woo!
You should back your guy up. Come
Woo!
on, Max. You got this.
Yeah. Yeah. Hashtag blue team. Blue team. Woo! Get him. Get him, Max.
Oh
Get him.
man, this is
Beat him.
intense.
Beat him.
Ah,
Beat him.
Yes.
Oh, it's a
yes.
1v2. Yeah.
we got beat down. We got gang
Yeah.
What? That was fun.
That was fun. Hello. Hello.
What? Team Nando takes another dub. Am I
Guys,
right,
one more
guys?
like to tag. Come on.
Am I right? Am I right, Chinny? Chinny.
What happened?
Team
Wait, what
Nando
happened to
gets
Rev?
another
I just
dub.
took and he left.
Yeah, he just dipped and didn't say a word.
His mom beat him up.
Aww.
Everyone that gets beat up by their mom is you, fat boy.
Oh.
Your mom beats me.
Oh no no.
Excuse me. I can't hear you all the way from down there, okay? Please come a little
Down
closer.
where?
Meaning,
What?
Down
meaning.
Miss-
where?
Mr. Fifth Place.
Oh, is that what you mean? Good one.
Right?
Oh, that was a good one.
My mind went somewhere completely
People
different.
idiot. I
Yeah.
wonder who that is.
Oh,
Oh,
naked
look at
lads
that.
now
That
online.
show.
Look who's back.
Is he back?
He's
Hey guys.
online.
Hi guys. Watch. Watch. Hi guys.
Guys, you have one spot if anyone wants to join us. Yeah. Feel more
Yeah,
than free
true.
to. Just saying. Oh, we got 2 people joining. Not sure how that's gonna work. Oh, okay. The Jedi within.
The Jedi within. Dope, man.
I'm a Star Wars.
Hey, people, idiot.
What?
Right? I wonder who that is.
Alright, start it up.
George, I'm pretty sure Fernando didn't see it, but I seen it. I seen it, if that counts.
Hey, legit. What is up,
My
legit?
boy X killed it.
X. Hey, RC.
Alright, team, I got another $1,000 on us.
Oh,
Do it.
that's another 1,000 down the drain. Haven't you learned, like, from the past 6 times that you're not getting that
Yeah, my
$1,000?
bad.
You don't even bet on your own
It's
team.
just
That's,
like-
that's
I
how
don't
much
need
confidence
to.
you got.
We don't need
No.
money, bruh.
That's
We-
how
we
much-
fit.
I got mad
We
money
set.
Too, homie.
We set for life, bruh. We good at the game. We got money. What else can you ask for?
I'm
Ooh,
not-
crowbars.
oh, yes,
like
let's
it.
go.
Oh, love this one. This is awesome.
It's gonna be
Oh,
fast,
So
fast pace.
dangerous.
Fast
Let's do-
and not furious.
Why'd my car take? No, it's not moving!
Oh no!
Yo, my car's not moving. What? That's so snake.
Whoa! I just got winged out of my car.
Bro, my car didn't move.
Sorry,
What
guys. Yeah, when I
What?
smashed into you guys, mine just
Oh,
went
okay.
right on.
Mine's good, mine's good.
No, but now I'm out of the area.
I know what you feel. Oh, that guy.
Oh,
reversed
cool
all
guys. Yeah.
Well, hashtag rip in the comments, guys.
Yes. Yo, we
What we
won.
got?
Let's go.
We
won.
got the Jedi. Oh.
Let's go. Good work, boys.
Guys, I'm down here. I supported.
Soup.
So, so.
Curry soup? What the hell? Perfect.
Trini, you know you didn't
What's
mute your
curry
mic.
soup?
Trini, your mic's not muted.
No, I don't know what the hell that is.
I want curry soup.
Fight! Fight!
There's no one to fight against except my own guy. Let me knock him
Fight
off
each
anyway.
other.
I can't. He won't move.
Crowbar that boy. Crowbar him.
Oh! Beat his ass. Bang!
Oh man.
Rockaby, you alive, buddy?
Nope.
Aww.
I lagged out again. I'll try and join.
Aww.
Aww.
It'll all be different from tomorrow on.
Yeah.
Hey, Cole.
Why? What's happening tomorrow?
New
Upgrade?
Wi-Fi equipment. Yep.
Oh, nice.
Hey, now.
What-
You're a rock
What the heck
star.
is this?
Oh.
Nova King. Press.
Press.
Where did that little kid go, bro?
He deadass got beat. That's why Lanky Lions came back online, but he never joined the call back. 'cause
Oh,
his
he
brother-
did. He's like, it's my effing brother.
He got doxxed. He got doxxed.
Meaning?
He got
Let me
doxxed.
send him that. Meaning what?
His brother probably
They
unplugged
probably-
his freaking router.
His brother probably got a little period.
What? How do you know that sound? So accurate.
I hate driving here.
I love it.
Hit him. Hit me. Hit me. Hit me. Hit me. Hit me. Hit me. Hit me.
Yes,
Yo, guys,
boss.
guys, Hit
Bang.
me. Hit me. Keep hitting me. Keep hitting me. He's not going anywhere. He's not going. No. Keep hitting me. Keep hitting me.
Can you block him? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I didn't want to back
You're
up.
shit at blocking him.
Bye.
Nova can't press. Nova. Oh my gosh. Double
Oh,
kill.
wow.
Double kill.
Yo,
Oh.
he's like screw it. I'm just going.
The time has come for me to go.
No. Yo, if all 4 of us stay on, we're sick. Get it.
Oh,
my
shit. This guy's legit just driving circles, bruh. That shit pissed me off.
It is just a circle.
Yeah, but you're not supposed to drive it like a race.
Yes. Oh shit.
Oh, come on.
Oh no. My bad.
We could have had all 4 of us, bruh.
I don't
How you doing, MCA, RC Vlogs? Hey, cool.
Yeah. Just us, buddy. Oh shit. Wait, I didn't die. I'm alive. I'm coming.
No, you're not.
I swear I am.
You can't get back on
there.
there. You can't get back on. Dumbo.
We still won though. That's all that counts. Where the heck am I? What? Dude, look at my stream. What the heck?
Let me see, where are you?
Just look where I fell into.
I know, I was watching. Hey, buddy.
Hey.
Hey, King. Hey, King R. Hey, cool. You disable your brother's ability to play?
So he says, and I quote, "This dumb wanted me
Your
to
mom's
play. I
being
told him
nice.
let me finish the game, but no, he went and told mom, and boom, boom, boom.
And what?
Wow, wow,
What do you mean? I told him an hour ago that I'm playing.
wow,
If I
forcefully,
Hey,
and you
Balloon, hey,
snitched,
cool.
huh? Snitches get stitches out
What the
here.
mom?
Snitches with them
Mom, it's my
stitches.
turn to play.
Exposed.
Oh, that's bad.
Exposed.
What?
Jeez. Nothing, man. Sorry.
All right, yo, did you see that, Fernando? Did you see that? Oh, Blue Wolf, yo, my bad.
No, I didn't see it. All right, we got
That
one more
was
round, guys, and then we'll start up a long haul so we get Rockaby and Rev in here. Hang on,
Thanks,
Rockaby.
man.
Got you, buddy. We are at 70 likes. Can we get 80 likes? This is a real question. Go for Trini. Go for Trini. Go for Trini.
Alright.
Why is this guy running here?
Yo, triple dosh.
Oh shit!
Yo, whoa.
That's a liability.
Hit the gas.
Boosting my agility.
Yo, why is that guy up there? He's making me mad.
I kind of want to take.
chilling.
Let's take care of these guys
I wanna
first.
Get off. Alright, you guys ready? I'm gonna get off and hit.
Hey, Trini, you can't control your car there, buddy.
Oh, I can.
Oh,
Thanks,
he fell.
guys.
Oh, bye. Oh, there you go. Look at that.
Ah!
His dead body was just.
This is very exciting, yeah. Get Trini out of here, bruh. Get this man.
He's gone. Oh, never.
Oh shit!
Nothing.
Oh shit! That was dirtier than a pancake on a Tuesday.
Oh wait, someone else is gone. Hey,
Down, Trini. That was very rude, bro. I
come
gotta
here.
say.
Wait, where'd he go?
Yeah, I can't see your friend. Oh, your friend went off. Oh.
Oh my god.
Get this guy. Really, you're gonna hit me into the cars? The cars aren't gonna move.
Oh, on a bicycle.
What are you guys playing?
We get a bicycle.
We're streaming.
Yes, right there. Oh.
Oh! Whoa! Take that, Trini.
Oh, another one. Wait. Yes.
Whoa.
Do a jump real quick. 9, 8,
Boom.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
And that's a win in my books. Hey, Darren. Hey, Joe. Hey, RC. Trini shouldn't have gotten out there. Should you have now, buddy?
I fell off one. Well, actually, I fell off.
Legit, this is getting kind of boring.
I just like falling off.
You know, I'm taking L's from the beginning.
Oh.
Wow. All right, we're finally done this, guys. That was a lot of fun, though. To be honest.
Oh shit! Now.
I had a
Oh,
breeze. Perky set. Molly Perky set. Represent. Gotta represent.
What?
What?
Ew.
What?
I want to do a rainbow stream after.
Butter,
Kinda
butter, butter, da, butter, 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 da.
No, keep doing that and wait someone sing. Okay, no, your beat is off. Are you starting up a long
Alright. Yeah, let's all leave this. I'm about to start the long haul, boys and ladies. And Trini. So we have 30 spots available, so if you guys do want to join us, just saying.
Wow,
all
that's
you gotta do-
embarrassing. I lost 2 subscribers.
That's it? That's it?
Yeah.
That's all his subscribers, bro.
Listen, I have 4, okay? Think you're funny?
Nah, I don't have any subscribers.
Suck it, nerd.
Shut up.
Such a loser. Evelyn. I'm gonna pop some tags. Only got 25 in my pocket.
Guys, this is my dream car right here.
What is
Mitsubishi
it?
Corolla.
Pinto?
It is a Vulcan ingot. Yeah,
English?
you know what it is.
It ain't got what? It ain't got what?
It's ingot what? It's ingot what? What's it ingot?
Invite, man, invite.
Bro, I'm still in the freaking clouds. I'm hot as shit. Okay, hold on. Almost done.
Somebody's angry.
Okay, I'm ready now. I'm going to join the job, play job, book my job. I'm going
Trini,
to go to the
join us
SS.
if you're gonna join quick anyways. Or start off.
What? This guy joins last. Oh shit, I joined the wrong one. I see 2 people there. Head ass. Who said whoa?
Whoa!
Oh, whoa.
Boys,
A
boys
Dexter.
crack. Alright, invites are out, boys.
Yeah.
I will pop some tags. Only got $25 in my pocket. Alright, everybody watching the stream, guys. I know this is a very laid back stream, but why not? Who
But we all
cares?
know
You're
that.
the ones
His pet
that-
monkey mojo being hungry. Oh, damn.
What?
That was rude.
Excuse me? Trini? Rev?
What up?
You joining?
I'm in, bro.
I
I'm
got
in.
you.
He's in,
Cole.
Rose in, Rake
We
Hill's
do,
in.
Rev,
Right.
are you joining or not?
I can get it.
Rev.
You want to just hit my name on
Obviously
PlayStation
don't
and
have the
join?
fastest car in the game.
I subscribe. Hey, thanks.
Man,
It's
I don't have the
boy.
fastest car. If you have the
Appreciate-
811, that's fast
appreciate
enough,
that.
bro. That's the fastest car in the game. 811.
I don't have that.
No, it's not.
Do you have a
It's
Nero?
the Banshee 900.
Do you have a Nero, Trini?
Or a Voltic.
Oh.
That's good too.
The Voltic's actually really fast. It's actually good on the economy too. You're saving a lot of energy and price values of the stock market at the same time. So if you want to go Voltic,
Everybody wins.
yeah, it's like
Except
it's like
you.
a win-win.
Start up, yo. What are you waiting
That's a
for?
good. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Hey.
Yo, start up.
What if I don't start it up, huh?
Oh man.
Yeah. Yeah.
We could wait here for up to 15 seconds.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh snap! I need to turn these laws like that. Boom. Boom.
Hey, RC. How you doing? RC Vlogs, what's up? Cole, what's up? Juan, would you stream Ark? I would, but I don't have it, and I don't like it as much. So, probably not. But,
Hey, I appreciate that. It's your boy Nation. Thanks, bro.
hey, cool. Hey, Eric Stubble. Alright, Trini, name off your cars. I'll tell you the fastest one and the strongest one to suffice against me and Lincoln.
No, I'll actually tell you the right one.
X80,
Definitely not X80.
RE7B.
No, don't go with that either. That's not good.
Oh, forget it. I'm gonna have to. It's the only thing I got.
Oh my
I'd say
god.
I mean, you can always go
Charisma.
RE7B. That's always a good option. Hey,
I
Rio.
accidentally
Hey,
picked the
Nightbow. What's
charisma.
up, SG Splash? Hey, Nerd. Hi, Rick Kill. You guys are getting close to 890 like.
Great. The
What are you
charisma.
driving?
All right. Let's do this, boys.
Great.
Wait, what are you in?
A Turismo.
That must suck.
Turissimo.
Look at this guy. He tried taking me out. That's why he went all the way to the left. You're gonna get taken out.
Trey, those colors are very.
Boom!
Oh my god.
Oh god.
I gave you a warning. I said I was gonna take you out.
That was
Why is something
madness.
insulting? I don't like you.
Trini, those
Oh,
colors
shit.
are ugly as shit, man.
No, bro, that's a nice color scheme. Looks
Nah.
like candy.
You look like candy.
I don't like candy last time.
Excuse me?
Ooh.
Excuse me?
No! It's your boy Nation, I'll check it out, bro.
This guy's so
Nice.
shit at Reese. What? What?
Oh my god, I'm
You know,
actually
if I
so
get there, you're gonna get freaking macaroni posted.
No, chill. I'm innocent.
I'm gonna take your innocent away from you.
Hey, what's
Whoa,
up,
somebody
bro?
just got taken out.
Hey, Boosted! How you doing, D-Man? Hey, Sylvester!
Let's go get Ray Kill.
Yeah, let's
Alright.
go.
Yeah, let's go. Here we go. Here you go.
Oh, no, 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 no.
Wow.
Come along with me to a place under a tree.
Rockaby, there's
I'll
two
take that.
randoms on your tail, man.
Hey,
Got it.
man.
Thanks.
Yo, Max is always in that green Santorno.
What? How did you freaking
Go.
fit? How did this 811 freaking fit?
Come on. Oh,
Damn.
what is happening? Oh my god.
I don't know why I tried that.
Oh
I
my
should have never
god,
tried
you
that, guys.
peasant. You just had to drive straight.
Well, I tried to hit you out.
No.
You see, we really don't know when you try and when you don't try because your racing's so shit.
Facts.
Hey, Lewis. Hey, Derek.
That was a good one.
Thanks, man.
Oh my
Here, let me help.
Oh.
Hasta la boom boom.
R.I.P.
Legit. I think you're done. Oh,
shit.
shit. Trini, you good, bro? I sent him
Stuck
your
for
way.
landing.
I sent him
Stuck
your
for
way.
landing.
Oh, was
Can't
that
get
you?
off this dirt.
Yeah, of course you can join us, Boost. Whew, let's go. Yo, Rockaby's
Yeah,
just
boys,
leaving.
I'm coming.
My bad.
Come back, Rockaby. I'm coming for you.
It's all good. It's part of the race.
Aw, man, you ain't got this.
Low boat. Low boat. Low boat. Low boat. Sew. 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 Yeah, I'm hungry as a freaking train.
You're hungry 'cause
Really?
you're fat.
Me too.
No, I'm hungry because I'm fat. What,
Hold
you
on,
don't get hungry?
back up,
Yeah,
stop working
mm.
my mic for a second.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
How many gears do you have?
You know?
I was only on my fifth.
Can you hear that? You can't hear that.
Hey, buddy. Oh, shit. Fernando's
Wow,
gone.
guys.
Exactly, that's what I like to hear.
Bye.
Bye.
J
Slow
19.
down a little bit so my trains won't catch up. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Come a little bit. Slow down a bit. A little.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Thanks, Fernando. I appreciate that.
Anytime, bro. You know I got you. Hey, Colin.
I know you
see.
do.
Hey, Cole. Look at this little girl trying to freaking curb boost. Hey, Balloon.
Oh, later, George.
Oh, later, Lincoln.
I'm back.
Like he cannot turn.
Lincoln can't drive.
This guy tried taking me out. Wow. I'm in such a slow car, bro.
Trini, why you so far back, man? I cannot see you, yeah.
Lonzo
what
almost
happened?
took me out a long time ago.
Bro, what happened?
I thought I could 50 that curb boost, but I didn't. You know,
It's all right,
stuck out
Shadow.
a little bit.
Get to give himself out.
I saw.
Shut up.
Races, no, I like
Don't
no.
worry.
I got a certain Rockaby to catch. Let's go.
Alright, we good. We good. Is Rockaby first?
Oh, no. He's the one before first.
Jedi boys first.
Oh. No, he's not.
There he is.
This is gone. Oh, no.
No. Check your thing. First place ain't gone. He's gone, but he's
I know,
not
said
gone.
Yeah, I'm on him. I got this, guys.
Second.
Hashtag we believe. I got
Fernando,
this.
What's up, bro?
I'm coming for you, Rockaby.
Yeah, this thing could catch up, bro. Only, please.
Rockaby, I'm
Slow
here.
down.
Rockaby, slow down.
Trini. You know if you press R2, you get a speed boost?
Is that right?
Yeah.
Rockaby,
I mean L2. Why did I say R2?
Rockaby.
I meant L2.
Thanks,
I'm
buddy.
good, bro. Thanks,
I'm here, Rockaby.
Hey, Fernando.
I'm here.
Slowly but surely.
I'm
catching
here!
up.
I just wanted to say hi.
Hey.
Come on, this thing
It
takes
took you
10
forever
years
to
to
catch up to me, though, man.
For real.
I hear it slowly catching up. Come on.
Got a
Catching
nice
that boost.
three-car breakaway here.
Yes.
Right?
No,
Guys, we should all work together. Like that'd be so smart.
No. No one ever does that. You suggest the idea, but you break it down at the end.
Listen, I can't hear you from all the way back there, so keep your thoughts to yourself, okay?
Oh, Trini, you're one place ahead of me.
So, you're still behind me. Oh, man, you got spun out.
Oh!
Hey, Ro. Whoa,
Hey,
Ro.
Lycan.
I don't know what just happened.
Excuse me, Lycan? Was that a threat?
No, now I have to wait 10 years to catch up.
Yeah,
Right,
wait.
on Ro.
Yes,
Ooh.
yes. Alright, go. You are appreciated.
Alright, Rev, you're about to get it, bruh.
Alright.
Yes, welcome me. Yes, I've catch
Come
up.
on, come on.
Thank you.
It's all about the
You are
applause, the
appreciated.
applause,
Oh
the
my God.
applause.
Yes.
It's about the applause, son.
Oh no.
You finna fly today, my child. You finna fly.
Yo, take him out.
You finna fly so high
No!
that your brother gonna see you.
No.
I tried to give you more room, but my car said no.
Oh, that was my fault. I didn't do brakes.
No, Max,
break, sir.
take foot.
Max ain't gonna take me out. Max my boy. Max my G. Max. Trini, where'd you go, bro?
Come on.
Oh, shit, you messed yourself up.
Know what your dad said
Yeah.
last night. Oh shit!
Miss me?
No!
Oh shit.
Rev, let's
Phew.
go. Oh, respect. No. Wow. Wow, how did you guys do that? Your dad
Oh! Oh!
No,
Yo!
You got this.
Your
Wow.
boy just sweeped the whole house.
I seen that one.
Your boy just sweeped the whole freaking house. Bro, you gotta see my stream,
Yeah,
bro.
bro, I seen
That
that.
was
I
mad.
seen the rope cleared and a little blue car passing through.
That was mud.
you're about to go flying.
Shit, Trini's far back. I feel bad. Trini, I wasn't even trying to take you out. It was a curve.
No, no, no!
Oh, damn, Rockaby. How is he still going, bruh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything
Like
not-
and catch up. Like and catch up, okay?
Here you go, Rocky.
I'm taking a roll.
That's bruh.
Cause you took me out?
You took me out too. If I get free. Come on. Yes.
No! Max!
Rock, we know.
Max!
No.
Let's go.
Hey, Trini. Hey, Trini.
Really, dude?
If I'm not winning, you're not winning either.
I'd be fair on that's all that matters. That's all that
Bro, what actually?
Ass Lankin, I would have had you. I would have had you and freaking Rockaby, but Max took me out, bro. Stupid.
Max your
freaking
homie, Max your boy. He won't take you out.
No, it's Max. Max
Rocky,
is
what'd you
my.
say?
I'm trying to figure out like. So I know I hit you, but what happened after that?
Like,
You,
there was a little thing that stuck out. I don't know. I think a pole in the road. Like, you know how it's called
Okay, you hit a pole. Got it.
something like that.
Bro, that was actually so crazy. Where I just took out the freaking hole. That was sick. I'm still proud of that.
But you didn't finish first.
But you
Why?
didn't finish first
You went
either.
first.
But you didn't finish first either.
Like,
I did.
Hey, boys, I gotta
yeah,
bounce.
he's trying
No,
to
do
argue
one more,
too,
Trini.
so-
One more. One last one. One last
Okay,
one.
boys, I gotta
Come
go.
on,
If
come on,
Rockaby wins, it's
please.
good enough because he has
Trini,
armor.
With you
please.
guys. Rocky
Just
Beat,
one
always
last
pleasure.
one, Trini. I know you can do one last one,
I
Trini.
gotta go.
Just, Trini, come on, man.
Yeah,
Don't
boys.
dip on the squad.
Bye.
Oh, you did. All right, time to add Shadow
still
and
gonna
After all
Boosted.
that convincing.
Where's Shadow? Shadow, Boosted. About the
Juan, bro.
applause, the
It's Juan,
applause.
bro.
It's every Juan, bro.
It's every day, bro.
No.
With your
no.
mom's little flow.
Oh. Oh. Ooh, kill him. Ooh, kill him.
Ew. Ew.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hey, what's up?
Hi.
Hi.
All right, let's do
Hi.
this.
What's up, Shadow?
Shadow doesn't talk.
Oh yeah. What's up, Shadow?
Ew.
Hello.
There he is.
Jose. Oh, Max said he didn't touch you on his screen. That's all good. Joe, Jose / Max. I don't know what you want to be called.
It was just me or did your mic get lower, Offset?
No, it did not get lower.
Okay, no, you're good. You're good. You're good.
Kill.
Oh, no, I need to change that.
Don't go Turismo this time, buddy.
Uh,
Words of advice.
I'll try not to.
But
Might
he
make it-
almost did win it.
That charisma was funny.
Bro, I dead ass freaking cleared house.
Wait,
I was turning in the bait
wait.
using all the non-flying cars.
Yeah, I
but
thought
that
that,
was
but that was
by
an accident.
Alright, let's go. Beware of the Lankin. Hey, I just met you. And this is crazy. There's my number. Call me, baby. What did you think I was gonna do? Just let you pass?
Like a normal person.
Alright.
Hey, Rockaby.
Rock. If you win, I win.
That's right. Oh, don't have her on.
Oh no, Shadow. Oh no. You didn't see
Oh,
that.
Schnitzer Dizzle.
Rockaby, is that a
Why, man? Finna
Yeah, this is a
freaking
custom 811.
bust you out.
Oh,
I mean, what? Here.
Shoot, I think it is. I think this is 0 hour blue.
Ooh, that's a pretty blue.
Oh, my bad, Ray Kill.
I need to get off the dirt.
That would be a good idea.
Come on. Just
For
catch
sure.
up.
One of the most beautiful 811s are up front. I like it.
Whoa.
Hold on, I'm
Okay,
coming,
I
I'm
thought you could
coming.
handle that better.
Cheeky, cheeky.
Whoa. Shadow.
Yes.
You been practicing?
No. Oh,
Alright, I'm gonna
three-way.
back out of this. I don't like this.
Bro, how you so far back, dog?
I'm
What's
not.
going on?
I'm only 8.
Hey, Joe.
Rev's
Alright.
catching up.
Awesome.
Part of the front group.
Soon there will be no group if this guy catches up.
Right?
Hey, Tyler.
Rev, don't let them get you, bro.
Oh!
You're good. You're a sick
Oh.
driver.
I thought you saved it.
Tried to, that Max guy got me. Oh, there you go. Oh, no, he's under roof.
No! You can't just swerve left!
Oh God.
Nice boost.
Damn it, boost.
That was unplanned, by the way. But, oh well, I'll take that.
Oh, you're gonna take something else real
I
soon.
got A11.
For real.
Racing A11.
I'm catching up right now. Let's catch up, Max.
Wait, what?
Like it. Take out Shadow, bro.
Shadow, wow.
No, I'm carrying him.
Alright.
Shadow's a dirty racer, I told you.
I'm not dirty, I'm
Oh.
clean.
Hi, Ray.
Nah, no. Bro, I'm coming for you.
What did I even do to you?
What you gonna do when Fernando comes for you?
Bro, get away. I mean, Rev, get away from
You can't take me out earlier.
me. No, I didn't
Oh, there they go.
Oh,
Nice.
Shadow, what you doing in the barn there, buddy? In the
Whoa,
zoo
Rev,
animal.
whoa.
Oh my gosh, what the hell, that pole?
Sweat now, I had to wait for
That
you.
pole was tripping out.
Oh shit. Oh shit.
That ass has got shit at driving. I don't know. Oh shit. Oh shit. Like how? Hey, Rockaby.
I don't know. I can't have control.
How? Straight roll.
Hey, Boost.
Hello.
Oh man.
Hey, Rockaby. Go, Rockaby.
Thankfully, I learned this new trick.
It's a trap. He's trying to make us ask him what the trick is so that we can learn it,
Trick.
but it's really not a trick.
Yeah, but
Oh, that was a sick two-wheel, bro.
You can't learn
Alright.
the trick just by hearing it.
I'm
saw it?
definitely not back.
Oh shit.
Oh,
Relax,
oh, you
man.
made a mistake there, buddy.
But doing what? Like,
Try taking me out.
I didn't try to take you out.
You whacked me.
You go back to me.
Hey, Rockman.
I see 4 wide coming up behind me.
Dead
Oh,
ass.
this is here.
Oh no, this guy's in front of you. Hey buddy.
Hey, Fernando.
Hey, buddy.
Oh shit. Yeah.
Oh shit! Oh shit! Yo, that freaking Wagner just got harassed. That Wagner's like that. Have you guys seen the freaking thing on Instagram when the innocent guy gets beat up for no reason? Oh, the two people are fighting. He's
Oh,
like
yeah,
the
I
guy
saw
in the
that.
situation. Yeah, in the locker.
Oh yeah,
By the
that
locker.
happened.
He's like that innocent guy.
You're trying to cross.
I
What did I
know.
just say?
I don't know, but I just said I know to make you feel better.
Thanks.
Oh, sorry.
Not yet.
This is very peaceful, guys.
I don't like what's
I
going
mean,
on.
Rev came up here, so not anymore.
Oh, Fernando, go ahead.
Hey guys! This is very unorthodox.
I don't know.
Oh, bye.
Oh, there he goes. Bye,
Your
Fernando.
boy's back!
Damn.
I tried saving it. That stupid rock was there. Just jumped at me, bro.
Yeah, blame the rock.
Nah, that ass. It just jumped out.
I had to brake so hard.
Pretty cool. You know, better way of braking? R1 and
Whoa!
R2. Oh! Lincoln got tossed!
I would
Man
have
got
Yeah.
tossed!
the way,
Shit.
bro. That looks so sick on my street, bro. He just what? Two-wheeled out of the lane,
I'm out. I'm done.
Wait,
bro.
what
What
happened?
happened to you? He just two-wheeled onto the other exit.
I couldn't hit the curb.
think that would happen.
Dude, what and why?
I didn't even do anything though. You just break.
Oh!
Oh,
Bye.
shit. Shit.
Fernando, or why are you taking the exit ramp?
I legit hate
That's like
Shadow.
it to say
I mean, not Shadow. Freaking Ray. Ray's a little dick. Like, I'm not even trying to take him out, bro.
Whoa! Okay.
Whoa, that
What the
guy.
heck was that?
That was just me or
How
not?
did Ray get air?
That was okay.
Ray just
Helium
bugged
Bugattis.
Ray
He
just
got
stopped.
airborne, bro.
Ray just stopped. Legit, he stopped.
Ray,
He
yeah,
left.
Okay, that makes sense.
You hit him so hard that the man left. That
We knocked
ass.
him out of the
You-
lobby.
Yo, that was funny. He just two-wheeled across my screen. Oh my god.
Are you freaking spamming me? Oh.
What
Okay, let's
happened
catch up. Let's catch up. Let's see that two wheeling.
This guy loves two wheels, bro.
That ass. Alright, Lanky, let's catch up.
I can pull some lightning McQueen stuff like this. Oh, there.
Dude, that almost no. Okay. That almost
Go to
worked
the
for
rock.
forever.
Let's say good ciao.
Oh my god.
They're bouncing off of each other. It's a
Facts.
Shadow.
You guys might want to hang 10. I'm about to take you out.
Oh, well, okay, go ahead.
Who are you taking out?
The red
he's,
guy.
he's close to rocking me. He knows.
What happened?
Really, man?
Okay, we
Scott.
got it.
No, sorry.
No problem.
Yeah. They're trying to take me out.
Good. You take yourself out.
If I take you out, it's just for the finish, you know?
I hope you guys mess all each other up.
Oh man.
I feel like they're gonna
But
do
yeah,
that.
thanks for the finish.
I'm gonna win first.
No, bro, you're not passing me.
No,
Why'd you break so
I
hard?
don't.
Ding, 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 ding. What is the Jedi
What's
within
up,
you?
everybody? That was
You guys
crazy.
see that,
bro.
right?
How does he have no rims on the train?
I'm confused.
How you get there?
That's like one of those scenarios where you see like a car on top of like a freaking tree or some shit in real life. Like how? What caused you to get up there? Alright, I think everybody we can do one last one.
I'm good.
Sure.
Yeah.
Alrighty then, Cranky O'Reilly.
It's your boy Nick. Sure you can, bro.
That was fun. I'll tell you
But
now.
what about me?
I took myself out. And Ray took me out too.
Why did Idiot Show on your channel say, what about Ro? What does that mean?
What about you?
I don't know what they're talking about, bro.
Okay.
Normal time. Normal time. Eric, hello. Editor. Hi, Icky. Alright, let's do this, guys. Replay time.
I got my name in black.
Excuse me? Say it again, I dare you.
Oh man.
That.
That's what I thought.
Got my
Say
name in
that again.
graphite.
I said it.
That's what I thought. We're at 180 subscribers. Woo!
Nice.
We've been streaming for 2 hours. Bomba fire, Ross.
Damn.
PewDiePie is next. There we go. Dirty race this time. What do you mean dirty race this time? Yo, dirty ass has been dirty racing.
Fernando's dirty racing every time.
You already know.
He likes it
There's no
dirty.
time where he's clean.
Boost knows it well. He has experience, right, Boost? Am I right? Am I right? Am I right?
If you say so.
Yeah. Alright, let's go. Like, today will be nice. Yeah, everybody spam touchpad game.
It started.
Touchpad
Wow,
game.
Fernando.
We already picked our
touchpad.
car.
Touchpad game.
I already hit ready.
Touchpad gang. Touchpad. Touchpad.
People better
Touchpad.
not be putting that money on Fernando.
Touchpad gang. Touchpad gang. You know, a freaking magician cannot be magiced.
That's what I've always said.
Okay.
Boost has over 2,500 wins now.
So I lagged out.
Mm-hmm.
Ha!
77.
God damn it.
Must suck, Shadow.
Shadow, did you hit touchpad?
No.
That was a problem.
That's why. Come on, bro.
No. I was in peer pressure.
Rocky
and-
was going to say that's the problem
Yeah.
regardless to what you said. If he said you did hit it, he's gonna go ahead. That was the problem.
Yep.
Oh, I hit.
There's Osiris.
I'm gonna stay to the left
Thanks.
so that I don't get
Oh.
harassed. Oh, that's
that
Ray.
No car went flying.
Okay.
That was
yeah,
rare.
I seen that.
Boost, you good, bro?
Yep, perfect.
I like that.
Wagner loves. Liking, where you at, man?
I'm at night.
What?
Fernando, I think you turned left.
Fernando, what are you doing, man? Tracks this
I
way.
got-
There's no left. There's no left turns on the highway.
I dead ass went for Lincoln.
Going in there, bro.
Hello?
Whoa,
Yo,
okay.
you guys can hear me,
Rocky's
right?
playing it safe.
I can hear you, Lincoln. We can hear you.
Alright.
I just went for Lincoln hard, bruh.
Yo, I actually love
So
that
you can't
Osiris.
pick
What the hell?
yourself up.
Thanks.
Whoa, no.
Oh.
I always thought those wheels looked nice on a brake car.
Lincoln, why? I was just trying to slip you.
Yeah, I love these wheels, bro. Like the little trim of the.
Hold on, I actually want to see that shit. Look at that. That's actually pretty cool.
Oh.
I think you're getting growing orgasm right now.
I said that 'cause I got hit. Okay.
Bent. Who the frick is that car? I'm gonna freaking frack you, frick.
Okay.
That's the one that's good.
Frick. Hey.
Rocky, you want to get any closer?
Yeah.
You guys are far ahead. JK, I'm coming. I kind of miss
Whoa.
Shadow trying to take me out and take himself out.
Am I lagging, Boost?
Nope,
No,
not
you're
at all.
good.
Okay.
Did you say me missing?
Nothing. I didn't say anything.
No.
I didn't say anything.
Well, I mean, I always successfully take you out. I think it's Lincoln who fails.
Oh, fail.
Like it's just like him, bro. You can't change. Can't change him.
No, that's true. That's true.
It's a peaceful little stroll down the highway.
I'm coming
Yeah.
for you.
I keep looking back every time he says that. I don't see him.
Not yet. Not yet.
Dude,
Yeah.
oh, it was so peaceful until you came. You know that?
Why is this guy coming the other way? What the heck? I look on my map and he's coming towards me.
Are you good?
Yep, I just spawned it myself.
Wow.
Two-wheel
Yeah.
queen.
Like,
Two-wheel
yo, like,
queen.
yo, this guy tried to
Yo,
take
I
you
made him
out.
two-wheel
Alright,
again.
yo,
I
think
made
you
him
are
two-wheel
Yeah,
again.
that's why I'm in third and you're in ninth.
good.
Rockaby. Why are you going that way?
I missed the checkpoint.
What the heck? I looked towards you and just see you the other way. Yo, you know it's possible new DLC tomorrow? Possibility.
In GTA.
No, in freaking Rocket League.
You gotta be more specific,
Well,
bro.
That's also valid.
You gotta elaborate.
I'll give you
So
an album,
GTA.
What?
Yes, GTA.
Isn't that new supercars coming out like the last one in Legendary Motorsport?
Should be.
Damn.
Should be, could be, would be.
Hey, buddy. Please don't take me out.
Chase no skateboard P.
Oh. Max just.
Oh, there goes Lincoln with. Ooh.
I did not try to
Oh.
take you. No space.
Oh.
No space.
Ooh! Did I scare you
No
there?
space. A little bit. Yes. Great kill.
Please don't be a hero.
Oh my god.
Couldn't turn.
Nice, dude.
Oh shit, thanks, Ray. Respect, fam. I had way too much speed into that freaking turn.
I like the logo on the society. It looks nice.
Dead ass, the freaking FT53 logo. You did a pretty good job on it, buddy.
Thanks.
Is it the same logo or you guys made a new one?
Yeah, man, you will. He has your face on it.
That?
Yo, Boost, what are you doing? Oh no.
Fernando
Oh, shit.
is Fernando.
What?
What the heck just happened?
But if you send a friend request, he'll probably add you back.
Yeah, I will add you back. Shoot up invites, friend request. Oh! Oh! Go, 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 go.
Almost lost that.
That's for earlier, even though you didn't do anything.
You did nothing to me, but okay.
Facts.
Hey, buddy.
Hey.
Bye, buddy.
Max left? What, Max?
Yo, Max is always in that green Centorno.
That ass, you know when it's
Every
in.
race. Just trading. Not going on. I'm loving this car at the moment.
Oh my gosh. I didn't even do anything. He just jumped into the middle.
That's
Okay, thanks. Thanks.
I couldn't control myself, I'll be honest.
Say sorry.
Or what?
Ooh. Too late.
You try. Alright, you know,
Yeah,
I'm coming for you.
really tried to take me.
I'm coming for you now. I got the power! I don't have the power. I don't. No, shit.
Why, man? Good.
Oh, Fernando.
What happened there, Fernando?
Thank you. Whoever took
Shit,
us
shit,
out.
shit.
Thank you.
I may have spun him out, and he went up the off ramp.
Good job, Boost.
I thought it would connect back and I just kept going. Yeah, that was when I was not smart. Wheel. Let's hope this thing gets a speed boost.
No, you guys are gone. Oh my god.
Weren't you up front, bro? What happened?
Wait,
No,
what?
happened? Why do you always say wait what for every game you play?
Dead ass! This guy gets killed in freaking Rainbow. Wait, what? The guy gets taken out. Wait,
Oh,
what?
okay. That was
Listen. On my screen was
that was lag.
fine. You saw it too, right?
Yep. Don't worry,
Yeah,
we're just.
Yeah, but
peaches.
Boost, but you didn't hear Boost saying, wait, what?
Because,
Wait,
you know,
what?
I took that too. See?
What do you mean, C?
Wait, how much?
What happened? Where?
Who, what, where, when, why?
How?
You just kind of repeat it. Why?
Hey?
What the? Who?
Please catch up.
I'm hoping the same thing, bruh.
No, I hope you don't catch up. You don't deserve to.
I'll plug in the charger right now.
No, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, I'm so far.
I'm freaking using every book in the freaking
Ah.
textbook.
What?
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 Every chick in the book. Why'd you say facts then, dumbass?
I didn't say facts.
Yeah, you did.
Is that right?
No, you said
Yeah.
facts.
That's what
We
you get.
lost Boost. Good job, Boost.
Zamid Zanyan.
Come on, Rockaby. Come on. Hell yeah.
Yes!
What? He finished second.
It's so close.
How did he finish second? How?
How did he finish?
Alright, guys. Thank you so much to everyone that came by. Thank you so much for an awesome stream. But we will catch you guys on the next one. Thank you so much to Rockaby, Lions, Trini, Boosted, Shadow, and everyone that came by. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, and peace out.